Each generation brings its unique perspective to the workplace. But how do we bridge generational gaps while fostering collaboration and innovation? Our next panel brings together a multi generational leader panel. As mentioned before by Ms. Preeti Bajaj, we haven't forgotten the Generation X. So, we have the next panelist joining us who will help us explore the expectations and aspirations of today's workforce. On the topic, the Future Workforce Trilogy, Multi-Gen Leaders Panel. May I now invite Mr. Amit Malik, President Japan, Asia Pacific and Australia, WadzPay, to come on stage as the moderator for our next panel discussion. Next, we have Ms. Ankita Gauba, People Business Partner, Product and Technology at Expedia Group. Next, we have Mr. Vaibhav Chaturvedi, Head of Talent, South Asia, Nestle, India. Ms. Mehr Sanduja, General Manager, HR at InterGlobe Hotels. And concluding the panel, we have Ms. Shreshtha Srivastava, Manager, Total Rewards and HR Analytics at Pernod Ricard. May we all have a huge round of applause and welcome the panelists.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by, I don't know where Lopa and Subrata, Lopa's there. I thought you guys were friends, but now you've got me to moderate a session after Sabi. That's not friendship. I'm sure no one can beat him. Yeah, he's just raised the bar. So, but great job, Sabi. Thank you. Okay, so, you've had industry veterans, you've had senior people, you've had everybody talking about, AI, Gen X, sustainability since morning. We have a fresh panel of young HR leaders here today, right? Who come with a lot of knowledge, a little less of experience, but I think a lot of enthusiasm and a different perspective. And this topic wouldn't have been complete, this conference wouldn't have been complete had we not had a different view from what has been said. So the expectation from all of you is to bring in a different view, right? Don't think too much, just say what comes to your mind. That's what the generation is, right? Just say it as it is, just say what's on your mind, and you can be as provocative as you want, don't worry, right? So, the world's changing faster, and you've heard all of this, right? We've had this whole generation X, Y, Z. We're talking of generation Alpha. I don't know how many of you realize that kids who are born in 2025 will be the first batch who will see a turn of the millennium, taking 75 years as the average age, right? So now we will have a generation that's going to see the change of the millennium. Many of us may not be there, but those who are will witness that, right? So the workplace is changing, expectations is changing, right? AI, which used to be, when I was growing up, used to be a distant dream, is a reality today. Though AI does work that I don't want it to do, and it makes me do work that I think I don't want to do. I want to write a journal, AI says I will write it for you. I wanted to wash my clothes, it says you do it yourself. But that's the reality, but it's here to stay, right? And when you look at organizations, AI does a lot of work for us. It screens resume, it gives us interview questions, so it helps us. But what it still doesn't give us is, coffee room gossip. It still doesn't give us that, so I'm waiting for that day. But then again, that's AI, and that's what it is. Coming on to sustainability, I thought we heard the panel talk about sustainability last time. Sustainability is not an option, it has to happen. Whether you believe in it or not, you could be a Trump believer and say plastic straws are good and paper straws are not. But it is something that we have to do. After all, I don't know how many of you know, this January 2025 has been the hottest recorded January ever since the recording of weather has began. So it's in our face. On that note, with an incredible panel, I'm going to start the questions. So, Ankita, let's start with you, since you're sitting closest to me, right? We talked about Gen Z, we talked about Gen Alpha, which is going to come in. The workplace is going to be reshaped. The work culture is going to be reshaped. How do you see the values and expectations in relation to these generations from a workplace?
Thanks so much. If I had known that I'm going to get the question first because of proximity, I would have sat farthest. But thank you. I think I want to start with actually this very interesting anecdote, and this is just as of yesterday. In my organization, which is Expedia, we have something known as inclusion business groups and community business groups, so IBGs and CBGs. Yesterday, and this is to just address, the different generations we have in our workplace right now, we launched a community business group which is called AGE, which is Advocates for Generational Equity. Because at this moment, there are 5 generations in the workplace that are there. And how do you kind of get them together to come and advocate for each other, address and raise concerns that their generation is facing, and really advocate, talk about each other, raise concerns? I think that was the premise basis which we realized that we needed something like that. And I'm mighty proud to say that we do have a lot of other, and this is the part that I want to focus on in terms of saying that as Gen Z, Alpha are entering the workforce, there is going to be more and more focus on creating communities. It is not just about doing the work and getting things done or getting shit done, as we sometimes say, but it's about also explaining the why. Not the Gen Zs don't want to just do the work. They want to know the why behind it, right? So transparency, flexibility, these are things that we've heard through the day across panels. But I actually saw this, and I'm going to focus a little bit on the transparency and explaining the why. And that's something we need to make sure that our workforce is ready for. Our leaders who are not the same generation as the people who are asking the whys, to see that and like all organizations, we do engagement surveys, right? And we saw that the leadership score was really low. And the trust in leadership, transparency, these scores particularly were low. And that's where when we further did more conversations as focus groups to understand why, is because there are decisions that are getting done which we don't know why. And that is one example of saying that what is it that this new generation is asking for and what our leaders need to focus on. And I'll quickly wrap up, Amit. The other bit I'd say is, I think with COVID, the one thing that has got more pronounced is around mental well-being and inclusion at work. So at one point in time, when I had entered the workforce about 10 years back, it used to be just about diversity, gender. But there is so much and so many aspects to diversity that we're actually talking about now, and inclusion, which is around abilities inclusion, which is around pride. So that is going to be another focus area that will shape the future of the workforce, which organizations need to learn, whether it is through our policies, whether it is through creating communities and safe spaces where these conversations can be had, is something that's going to be crucial and key for the organizations coming up.
Thank you, Ankita. Truly spoken like a Gen Z, Gen Y. Did you look at the laundry list? That was quite long. I lost track of it somewhere, So yeah, but that's truly spoken. Mehr, coming to you. We've talked about the long expectation that Ankita shared, right? We've talked about AI. Tell me, what are the biggest opportunities in your view that AI presents for the workforce as we look into the next decade?
Sure. Thank you, Amit. I'm not diluting the coffee table conversations that we may have. I'm sure AI cannot create the Picasso painting, but your question takes me back to 1980s when computers were just launched in Rajiv Gandhi's era, and there were protests on the road that we lose our jobs, but none of that happened. Actually, AI repurposed the jobs, it recreated the jobs. So I'll just present some data which is from the Future Jobs Report 2025, which forecasts by 2030 we'll create approximately 170 million jobs globally. So the kind of opportunities that AI can create is immense. I know I'm a millennial, and I would believe that firmly because it's backed by data. I work for InterGlobe Hotels. I see how we use AI to bring in our customer back to us, the repeat customer. So the kind of individualized, personalized service that we give to them bases their preferences, their behaviors, their choices, brings repeat customer to us. If somebody had a cafe latte at 6 o'clock in the evening with a vanilla flavor, I cannot have a recall of that, but the data can have. So a lot of opportunities on doing the repeated mundane jobs. Just to cite an example of Siemens. Siemens has now automated its production line through AI robots, which has led to a lot of increase in the production and reduction of the errors. So I would say opportunities are immense. I mean, in any area you pick up. I mean, the other day I had a swollen eye, so I just took a picture of my eye and uploaded it on ChatGPT, and it gave me a huge prescription what I need to do. So, I mean, you pick up anything. You want to plan an itinerary today, you just type it on ChatGPT. Yesterday, I was part of a coaching conference, and for the first time, I saw an AI coach. I thought, coaching is an opportunity when you get to sit across a coachee and understand also what is not being said, because coaching is a space which is a very emotional space. And I realized that how those things are also being taken into account in the AI space, because they also track the word per minute. They track when coachee has moved his or her eyelids, how many times the coachee has taken a pause in between. So that intelligence is also built in, which has really taken AI to the next level. It has created jobs. It has actually repurposed jobs. You take the space of medicine and data, I think the opportunities are immense. So it's on us. I mean, I would just want to wrap up by saying that, either we want to get tramped by it or we want to ride on it and enjoy that ride. That's on us. So that's my submission.
No, thank you. Thank you for that perspective. So next time when I'm having a coffee at an InterGlobe hotel, I'll make sure that I make the specifications very clear, right? Shreshtha, coming to you, we've talked about Gen Z, Gen Y, we've talked about the organizations, what they want to do, the opportunities. This is also a generation that's credited by saying they are job hoppers, they have changing priorities, they don't stay long, 18 months is a long tenure, give them a long service award after 1 year, right? So what do you think organizations can do to attract and retain this generational talent?
Thanks, Amit. I think Ankita rightly put it about inclusivity and inclusion, So I think there are two things really. On inclusivity, the only thing I'll say is that today's population, Gen Z, entering the workforce now, apparently they are 30% of the workforce already, they are more conscious of inclusion as a whole. And you rightly put about gender plus, that's there, right? We also know about neurodiversity. Current generation is more neurodivergent than probably any of us ever were. I didn't even know what neurodiversity was a couple of years back. So I think that is one. Because they are more neurodivergent, because they are more conscious, they have certain expectations which we might want to tailor to their needs. And at the end of the day, inclusivity, the difference between diversity and inclusion, as they say, calling somebody to a dancing party is diversity. Dancing with them at the dancing party is inclusion. So I think that culture needs to be made or curated in a way that this talent feels included, number one. Number two, coming from the rewards background, I handle the total rewards at Pernod, India. We talk about hyper-personalization of rewards. Again, the same thing, tailored to your customers, and in HR's case, the customers are our colleagues, our employees. Within the total rewards package, it's not just compensation, it's benefits included, it's work environment included, work-life balance included, L&D opportunities included. So it's a whole package that an employee gets when he or she joins the organization. Now, just to take a small example, and a lot of top FMCG firms, as I understand, PepsiCo also among them does this, they have this flexi benefits envelope, right? So in insurance, for example, there is a sum insured. Maybe a 20-year tenured colleague in my organization needs it for his mom. But an MT, a management trainee, his or her parents are already working, they are already insured by their own employers. She might need it for my pet, so I need a pet insurance. So, can I hyper personalize my rewards? This just being an example, tailored to the needs and expectations of this generation. And needless to say that what I'm getting out of an employer is the first thought that comes during job hopping, to your point. And then comes, the job role per se, that what's exactly my role in terms of role clarity. Are you able to explain that to the incoming workforce? That goes without saying across generations, but I think it's most important for today's generation.
Thank you so much. Yes, I absolutely agree with you, and thank you for sharing about hyper-personalization and flexibility. It has to, in the end, we all have to look at benefits and look at some point being the IMDb for the benefits, where you go rate them and, people generally see the popularity of the benefits. So correct. Vaibhav, coming on to you, and I'm saving the best for you, so I'm going to put you in the spot a little bit. On one side, this is a generation that's hearing about countries like Australia, countries like Japan, countries like Germany going on a 4-day work week, right? On the other hand, it's the generation that hears leaders talking about 70 hours work week or 90 hours work week, right? What in your view, what role does work-life balance play in the expectations of a new generation employee?
I was actually going to ask you what logic was followed for coming to me last, because I'm clearly not the one who's sitting closest or the farthest from you. Let's go with the idea that this is the best question that you've saved. I won't wade into the controversy or unnecessarily wade into the controversy of the 70-hour or 90-hour work week. Don't want my name to also come into the news. Avoiding that, though, it is something which is very important to the newer generation. It is something which we've seen become more and more important with every new generation which is coming into the workforce. I think in the previous panel, at least I was able to hear right at the end, the gentleman from ITC Hotels talking about the fact that when he went for a lecture 11 and a half years back to a business school, he mentioned the fact that at Ivy schools, people are willing to take a pay cut of 30%, wherein there are companies which are more ethically oriented, which are more oriented from a longer term perspective. Different take on that, but I think on the same vein, people are willing to compromise on other aspects today, as long as there is a work culture which gives them the flexibility to decide when is it that they want to work, where is it that they want to work from, and an overall holistic environment which looks at their development. So it's a very important topic. It's a very important reason for people for choosing jobs today, in my view. See, I've had the opportunity to work at a couple of places outside of India, just to take examples from there. So when I was in Switzerland, this would not even be something which would be there at the table. It would be kind of assumed that the first thing you look at is your own physical well-being. You look at your own mental well-being as well. And thankfully, that conversation is happening now in India as well, that people have started talking about mental well-being, which also has a big correlation with how many hours you work. And whether by overexertion, whether by working for very long hours, you actually get burnt out as well. Similarly, in Indochina, which was my second assignment, based out of Thailand, there's this concept there in Thai called Mepanrai. It means quite a lot of things, but one of the things it means is what will be, will be. So don't worry about it. Thankfully, these are two countries where the per capita GDP is higher than us. And at a broad level, that is what I see for our country as well. As the GDP keeps on increasing, we'd see people having more and more choices. They would not be limited to only working in a particular sector or working in only some jobs. And accordingly, there'd be more prioritization to things like work culture, work-life balance as well. The only probable exception to this rule, at least which comes to my mind, is China, where while there is economic output which has increased, per capita GDP has increased, but that has not necessarily led to reduction in work hours. So,
thank you. No, I think thank you for bringing in the geographic perspective to my question, and absolutely the need for why it is. And Mehr, coming to you, what strategies can businesses adopt to create a workforce that is both tech-driven and environmentally responsible?
I think it's high time that we embrace technology and also be environmentally responsible. Any future-minded organization today cannot work just basis technology. It has to be environmentally responsible. We are a future-minded organization. And when I say that, so like when you were talking about the kind of temperature we are sitting in January, February today, the kind of world wildfires that we are seeing in the Los Angeles, the kind of the glaciers melting, the floods taking over across nations. So everyone realizes the impact of how irresponsible behavior on that side can be a huge peril for the industry space. And today's generational workforce also realizes the impact of it. So we at InterGlobe Hotels, we are very inclined towards being environmentally responsible in a lot of ways. So we have picked up a few projects, just to name a few. There is a Nala camp here in this area where we are sitting at Mahipalpur, which has become open defecation free. And InterGlobe employees have partnered together to make that place ODF free. We often send our workforce, people who are recognized across various categories of awards, we send them for 1 week onto our InterGlobe Foundation projects to experience commune living and on-hand experience how they can actually contribute to the environment. Because when they face it firsthand, they are able to realize the implications of it, something that we take for granted. We exchange emails on the back of our hand. I mean, we would write 1,000 times thank you emails, but the kind of digital or carbon footprint it creates with every thank you email that gets exchanged is humongous. How we can, actually support in terms of avoiding those data-induced carbon footprints today. So lots is being done in that space wherein we can say that, how we can be environmentally more responsible. We have also come up with a lot of projects around empowerment wherein we are creating a safe space for people to come in and talk about how technology, how environment-related things can be taken up. So just to name a few, in our organization itself, we used to keep glass full of water in our cafeterias, and soon we realized that it's not required. We can just keep a jug and a few glasses to avoid wastage of water. In the hotel space, we have come up with green buildings. Most of our buildings are IGBC certified, which would involve wherever we can have a solar panel installed today. Wherever we could have vertical gardens. We try and also use some non-toxic paints, more eco-friendly products in our hotels, which are environment-friendly in nature. And I would want to throw some data points here. At InterGlobe, we have been able to actually save 5,776 kiloliters of fresh water and around 777 kgs of paper we are recycling every month. So through the Greeno Bin projects, all the waste that gets collected, it's actually sent to an organization which makes eco-friendly products out of that. Around 270 tons of carbon footprint is being saved every month. So lots happening on that front, because it's high time that we realize that if we are embracing technology, we have to be socially responsible, because if we don't do that, we'll actually destroy the world which we are trying to improve.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for sharing that data. That's very, very impressive. Thank you. We have Bakshi Saab also here, so that's very impressive, sir. So, Shreshtha, coming to you, we've talked about AI, we've talked about, you talked about hyper-personalization, you talked about flexible benefits. Tell me, what ethical considerations should organizations keep in mind when they integrate with AI?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Amit. I think 3 things that come to the top of my mind. About the data security, right? PIIs that we talk about, personally identifiable information. When the OpenAI was launched some time back, a lot of organizations got skeptical about my employees using that for generating solutions, my colleagues putting data, confidential data into it, which might get absorbed somewhere in their systems. So, which is why I think a lot of organizations now, and rightly so, have started with their own versions of GPT, right? AI generated. So one is that is one of the ethical considerations for sure. Second, we talk about consideration or challenge, so to say, about the bias. Whether, and we were talking about it earlier, whether or not the algorithms that are being built for the AI generated chatbots or systems, whoever is building that, are their personal biases getting induced into it? And one way probably to mitigate it, like any other project, is that it passes in the UAT stage through as many perspectives, as many stakeholders as it can. The third would be in terms of the largely talked about subject of human touch. So again, if I talk about me as an HR over here, whether or not my colleague would like to talk to a chatbot if she has some grievance for the company, right? Or would she like to talk to me as her HRBP? But here again, I think it's a fine line between really the transactional topics being talked about on AI, and let's say through a chatbot you're getting certain answers, and AI being used to augment the role of a human. So I think these are some of the ethical considerations that need to be kept in mind before launching a system like that, an AI system like that, and in general, the companies should be conscious about.
Thank you. Vaibhav, coming to you. We've all organizations typically, to survive or to have a competitive edge, focus on innovation, right? Everyone says, the CEO will stand and say, let's innovate, let's have a most innovative product, let's have a most innovative bot, let's have a most innovative service. And when we look at the theme of the topic, right, there's new generation that you have to deal with, there's AI that's coming in which you have to deal with, there's sustainability, that's a goal that the board has taken. So how do you, looking at all the three, how can organizations foster a culture which still focuses on innovation while maintaining leadership in all three of these topics?
I think the starting point for me, and this is the way we look at innovation at Nestle as well, has to look at the consumer first. So when we look at the different kinds of consumers which are there for our products, and this might be true for any organization when you start looking at the consumer, the first and foremost part of how do you actually innovate for a consumer, which is not a one holistic, one persona, but there are different kinds of consumers, is the voice of the consumer even reflected in your own organization? So that becomes a starting point. I think we spoke about the hues of diversity, and previously it was only one particular hue of it. But now looking at not only from a lens of, let's say, gender, but to look at it from the perspective of abilities as well. So the first and foremost thing for me is to make sure that you're getting the voice of these diverse consumers into the organization. The way we do it is we look at diversity from the perspective of gender. We look at diversity from a perspective of race and ethnicity. We look at it from a perspective of sexual orientation. We look at it from a perspective of person with disabilities. Now, only when all of these voices are represented on the table, when we're talking about new innovative products and services, that is when you can holistically have a discussion about it. How do you actually make sure that there are different generations as well which are involved in it? Now, typically what we saw reflected was most of our leadership came from a particular generation which would be at a particular age, which would not be representative of the rest of the organization, which might be at generation Z, which might be at some part of millennials as well. So we started a council called a Gen Z Council. The idea behind that Gen Z Council is that how do you make sure that you're hearing the voices of the generations as well in whatever innovation that you're doing, be it in terms of process, be it in terms of product, be it in terms of services. And that becomes kind of an advisory body to our organization internally as well. Yeah. Now, I'm just picking on the last point of it, which is how do you actually integrate sustainability and AI into this as well? For the longest time, I think for organizations, sustainability has remained as the forte of a particular department, be it the corporate affairs team, be it the sustainability team, where attempts have to be made, and we've just started making those attempts ourselves as well. How do we actually open this space up? How do we involve employees across the organization in understanding and contributing to our sustainability initiatives? For example, we have a project called Hildari, wherein we've actually we've taken on board 9 hill stations across India, Mussoorie, Dalhousie being top of mind examples, wherein we work with the government, we work with NGOs, we work with local municipal bodies in making sure that the waste which is collected, first of all, it's collected in a very sustainable manner. It is also disposed in a very sustainable manner as well. And we also ensure the dignity of life of the people who are collecting this particular waste. I actually quote something which we made an internal video of the people who are involved in doing this, and there's something which touched my heart quite a lot. I'd like to share that. One of the people who's involved in collecting this waste, she says, हमें लोग पहले कूड़े वाली बुलाते थे, but कूड़े वाली हम नहीं हैं. कूड़े तो आप हमें देते हो, हम तो सफाई वाले हैं. So that is our attempt, that how do we actually bring dignity to this as well. Now, using more technology, using more AI, we're also looking at it, okay, who are the people who are interested in doing this kind of work across the organization? What kind of people want to do this? How is it that we can enable this to happen? Not at all points of time you can take somebody to where this is happening. So are there other means of doing this as well? And also, just to complete this particular example of sustainable waste collection and disposal, that how do you actually make sure that you're incinerating waste in the most sustainable manner, you're actually using the best technology as well, you're also predicting where is it that the waste is getting generated more as well, and where is it that you need to actually put more manpower around it. So that's been kind of our attempt.
That's very interesting, from Gen Z Council to the waste. So is everyone else allowed to enter the Gen Z Council, or it's only restricted to the Gen Z?
Gen Z Council, unfortunately, is limited to the Gen Z, but we do have, of course, other opportunities to engage with people across other generations as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Ankita, coming to you. We've heard people talk about how disruptive AI is going to be, right? And there's a question that many HR departments are having, many employees are having today is, how do they future-proof themselves? So what are the key skills that employees or people need today to future-proof themselves when AI is going to be such a big disruptor?
Thanks, Amit. I think future-proofing ourselves, and it's not just pertaining to AI. This is going to be, first I'm going to give a little more generic. I think Mehr spoke about, when computers were launched, what happened, right? We didn't know, and then tabs came. I think through all generations, the one thing that has stayed in terms of staying relevant is upskilling. So that is going to be the same in terms of future-proofing ourselves. And I wouldn't, maybe I'll do a tweak to it to say it's being future-ready and not future-proof. There is a future-proof aspect to it when we talk about AI and disruptions, because we are also saying, and we have seen how AI can lead to a lot of disruption in terms of, what you feed in is going to come out. So how do you make sure what goes in is also getting purged at some time, is getting reviewed? So the importance of governance frameworks, the importance of the feedback loops to say that there are not biases that are getting generated. And I'm going to lean on your example, Amit, as we were chatting earlier, that when you ask for a resume of a computer engineer, it is 90% that it is going to be a male, because that's what is available, right? But is there dearth of women engineers? No. How do we then future-proof, which is through constant purging, constant reviews, and the governance frameworks? I think that is going to make it AI that we're using super relevant. The other aspect to, I think, future-proofing ourselves with respect to AI is also going to be making sure that I was reading this study as I was thinking through my thoughts, that as more and more organizations are upskilling their people, or doing AI and data basics courses for their people, the insecurity with respect to their jobs is also increasing. Because the more you know, the more it makes you insecure. So how do you make this better, or make this situation better for our workforces, is also going to be, while you're providing the learning, how do you also have opportunities? And I'm going to talk about, again, the safe spaces to have these conversations, to say that, no, bringing in AI is going to improve efficiency, but not make you redundant. Yes, there will be the transactional part of your jobs that will become redundant, which is the part where you need to then focus on reskilling. And that's the disruption that's going to be, to say that as you reskill, how do you also acquire skills that are going to be more relevant in the future? Because the transactional job that probably 50% of what you were doing is going to be done faster and more efficiently by the AI tools that we have. I think those are some of the things in terms of how we be future ready and future proof, not just ourselves, but also our organizations and the workforce within it.
Thank you. And I'm glad you used that example in this discussion. Vaibhav, I'm going to come back to you to your last answer. And it's still on my mind. You gave us a great example of a very harmonious balance between generation, next, new generations, technology, and AI and sustainability. What are the biggest challenges that you think are there in achieving this harmony? You told us the good part of how the harmony has been achieved, but what are the biggest challenges that you faced when you went about doing this?
I'll pick up from what Ankita spoke about, which is about fear. I think there is a very inherent fear of the unknown, first of all, which is there, and which is very natural as well. The fear of the unknown would be in organizations. The fear of the unknown would be in individuals. I would also fear what I do not completely understand and know of. So you're right. I painted what is probably the end outcome, what have been some of the things we've been able to achieve. But there are also lots of trials and tribulations in between. And even what we are doing, we're not perfect. There are lots of things that we still have not been able to do as well. The first thing there is, let's say, I'll take the example of the generations that we created, the Gen Z council that we created. An inherent fear which comes in the other generations when you're creating a council of this particular nature is, are we being left behind? So why is it that the organization is focusing only on one particular generation? What about us? So does that mean that the best of opportunities will only go to this particular generation? Does it mean our voices get not heard at all? Through constant communication, through constant messaging, making sure that there are other kind of opportunities which are provided to other generations as well. You have to make sure that you assuage those fears. On the aspect of technology and on the role of AI as well, there is natural fears which come. It might be in the manufacturing part of our organization. Okay, what will happen to our jobs? Will everything become automized? Will there be a reduction in jobs which will happen? Again, I think at an organization level, you have to first of all get the leadership together and make a roadmap for any technology change. And similarly, we had to do it for AI as well. And then you have to communicate that to the organization. Look, this is what we today understand of what is happening. This is what we understand of the impact to our organization. This is what our understanding of the external world and how this technology is shaping external world as well. It's not a perfect, it's not a complete understanding, but this is what we understand and this is what we're doing. And this is what the impact would be. This is how the organization would be supporting you. For example, drawing up a roadmap, sharing that roadmap, making sure that if there are any skill building, any retrainings which are required, then we plan for it. But also equally, and this is something which is very core to our people philosophy, we say that your career is managed by you. So equally, make sure that you're not only relying upon the input that you're getting from the organization, the input that you're getting from your line managers, but you yourself are also keeping abreast of what kind of a change because of technology or because of the advent of AI is happening in your specific role. And you are the best person to judge that. If you are in IT, if you're in human resources, the impact of AI in human resources, you would know best in your role as a talent acquisition head, as a rewards partner. So make sure that you are keeping yourself abreast of these changes as well. The organization will do this much, but make sure that you understand your own responsibility as well.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I just thought everyone could benefit from also talking about the challenges, when we heard about the good things. Shreshtha, I'm coming back to you. This is one of the few forums that we were discussing, right? When we were talking about saying which combines academia, which combines corporates, right? So when we look at preparing the workforce for future, academic institutions have a huge role to play, right? Government has a huge role to play. And also organizations have a huge role to play because some of them come at a very raw stage, at a very nascent stage, at a very early stage to build a career. So how do you think three of these, the government, the education institutions, and the organizations collaborate to prepare the workforce for the future? So this is your opportunity to give some gyan to the academics.
No, I'm too small to give any gyan, but yeah, I have learned from the academicians myself. And rightly put, this is a forum it's a melting pot of industry and academia together. And what better a platform to, share my perspective. So, right at the course curation stage for a lot of, and as I understand, a lot of MBA institutes already do that. When you are teaching subjects of finance, and within that a forex, or you're talking about marketing, and within that, let's say, segmentation, consumer insights, etc., are we not taking inputs from the industry in terms of its applicability in the real world? So we do have in MBA colleges the guest lectures from industrialists. We do have guest faculties also from industries who go to MBA colleges, and they are able to impart their wisdom there. But I think one thing that can probably be fostered more is this at the course curation stage. And there are case studies which are part of MBA schools, but the applicability, practical applicability, is something that the industrialists can talk about. That said, I think outside I was talking about to the academic head from IMS about the reverse mentoring bit. So a lot of us have gone for guest lectures in MBA institutes or employer branding, etc. You learn yourself. So me, when I was part of Symbiosis myself, there was this business analytics course which had just started. It was 1 year in its inception. Now business analytics has its roots everywhere. We are now talking about it. It's that evolved. So I think the reverse mentoring part of it, where you go back to school as well, and my company for that matter, Pernod, has this program where the top potentials are shortlisted, and there is tie-up with one of the institutes, one of the key top institutes in the country, where we go and we learn back from the professors there. So I think this is where the fungibility in terms of academia and industrialists through reverse mentoring can also happen. When I talk about government, so government at the end of the day, like in any other project, making the right policies, taking the global trends into picture and making a vision. So I think that is where, and obviously imparting it down the line, downstream to the corporates and to the B schools or schools in general, is where this interplay lies.
Thank you. No, I absolutely agree with you. I'm when you look at the academic curriculum and the way it's changing to keep in times, it's really, really commendable. So I would like to thank all of those who are here, who are making sure that the curriculum is very, very contemporary, and asking the right questions from making it contemporary is very, very, very commendable. So thank you, everybody, for that. So I think I've just been told we have 5 minutes. I'm going to ask Mehr, you and Ankita one question each, and keep the answers short before we'll open it up for the audience. So Mehr, coming to you. How can we, we've talked about in the context of AI and sustainability, how can we make sure that the future workforce finds itself equitable and inclusive? Right.
So I would like to take this question in a little different way. We often confuse between being equitable and equality. I think as industry, we should focus on being equitable and not on equality. When I say being equitable, it would be providing equal opportunities for people across diverse backgrounds, functions, domains. And I have a great example to share here, because we are a lot focused around our CSR practices, and we try to stitch in our sustainable practices in each of our people, policies, processes. We have recently tied up with Hope Foundation. It's not very recent, it's a little old though, wherein we are skilling the younger workforce who belongs to the vicinity area of Mahipalpur, because we have 3 big hotels in the AeroCity premises, and to cater to the environment, we pick up underprivileged younger lot from this vicinity, and we hone them on the job, and we provide them theoretical academic knowledge on how to work in the hospitality space. We provide them those opportunities, we upskill them, and then we absorb them back in our hotels. And the model has worked so fruitful for us. They have been one of our best employees today in our hotels, working on different areas of housekeeping, reception, and food and beverages, and so on and so forth. So I would say that, we should be giving equitable opportunities irrespective of the diverse workforce that people come from, the backgrounds they come from. And when it comes to AI for the industry, like for the cost of repeating, I'll say that always there is a need to upskill, train our people to pick up jobs which are more AI augmented jobs, because that is the future. So we should not shy away from losing our people, because we are actually building a life skill with them, which will help them be, more like it said that you teach the fish how to actually do the fishing, and not give them fish to eat. So it's a life skill that we can give to them, give them that skill which they can actually pick up and they can grow in future, upskill them, train them. As an industry, we are responsible to also bring in that technological practices or AI practices which are sustainable in nature. We should actually monitor the data, how much each practice of ours is contributing to the carbon footprint of the organization, and work backwards and see how we can mitigate those gaps. Yes, having said that, the kind of input that we'll give to the AI, the output would be accordingly. So removing those biases there in the input, because output would always be a function of input. So very important, because then we'll say that, we not only get the engineers which are male dominant in the engineering space. So removing those biases are also very, very important.
Oh, absolutely. Because biases lead to hallucinations, and then all the results from AI, we know what comes, right? Okay, Ankita, we started with you, so I'm going to end with you, right? We talked about what the expectation current Gen Z, Gen Y have from the organizations. Quickly share with us 2 or 3 top trends or innovative practices that you believe will have the most significant impact on the future workforce over next 5 to 10 years.
I think there's nothing different that I'm going to talk about as I wrap this up for all of us. The top trends that will have an impact is going to be around AI and organization readiness with respect to AI. Managing a multicultural workforce or a multi-generational workforce is going to be key. And how do we build organizational culture, knowing the things that we do, not just from our discussion now, but from what we know of all the things. And the last part is going to be, how do we make sure that inclusion is not just a buzzword, but it is happening in every sense of the word. And I'll give a quick example around it is, and leaning from what Srivastava also talked about, that when we say inclusion, it's not just about making sure that everybody is there, is part of a meeting, but it is part of multiple things. In a quick example, we're in the performance review time, and the one thing that we do is when we're looking at the organization distribution,
Hello everyone, I'm Ajay Gopal. I'm a faculty from ILM University. So I've done a PhD in e-waste management, and I've seen firsthand that how industry is pushing forward very strongly the sustainable practices. But my observation is the critical bottleneck is the consumer participation. To give some more context, 9% of e-waste in India is formally recycled. So how do you think AI can be leveraged to bring about behavioral change in the consumers so sustainability can truly be sustainable?
Is your question addressed to anyone specific, or anybody can pick it up?
Anybody can pick it up.
Okay, so who's going to pick it up?
I'm going to take a crack at it and say that I think when a lot of things were launched as new practices, I think the one thing that worked is gamification. And I'm thinking of this also as a gamification in terms of just thrusting upon and consumer, the consumer uptaking the whole waste management or sustainability seriously is going to come about when you engage with them. And these are the small things that you can engage with them. And that's the top of mind thing that came to me in terms of saying that everybody wants to know what's in it for me. And that is exactly for the consumer as well. The moment you tell them what's in it for them is what helps. And that's exactly, and I'll give you a quick example with Expedia. If you go onto the Expedia platform, and by no means this is an acquisition pitch for Expedia, but if you go onto the app and try and book a flight, it'll tell you the carbon emissions. What am I doing with that information? It is just making me conscious, the awareness, and that's the role that organizations will have to play to make sure that the consumers are buying into it.
I don't exactly it's working. I don't exactly have an answer for how does AI help support in building the consumer awareness, but there was a very interesting discussion which was happening in the last panel. Again, and maybe I have a bias because my first company was ITC, but again, the gentleman from ITC was talking about the fact about how when they tried to charge a premium to the customer which was coming to their hotel for certain sustainable practices, the customer was not very willing to pay that particular premium, but they got a lot of good uptake when they tried to educate the customer about what is the impact of certain of the practices that the customer is adopting. I don't think there is any easy solve for this. Organizations have to be doing it at scale and they have to be doing it continuously for a long time. And I think there is greater onus and responsibility on organizations which are more leaders in their respective space. See, I have an example from Thailand, wherein back to what you were talking about, Trump and the plastic straws. So we have a big portfolio of Milo in Thailand. And we used to have a plastic straw. We introduced a paper straw there. We got massive backlash from the consumer in saying, what is this? The paper straw goes bad after some time. It can actually become hazardous. It can lead to choking because it becomes soft, and when infants use it or babies use it, then it can actually probably get stuck as well. We actually lost market share. But we said, nothing doing. This is something that we believe in. We will continue with this. What our attempt would be to educate the customer and the consumer about what is the impact of using plastic and why is it that we have moved away from there, despite the fact that there might be short-term challenges like what I said about losing market share, but we will be at it, and there will be a time, we are very happy we're doing the right thing, but there will also be a time when the consumer would also appreciate that we're doing the right thing as well.
Thanks, Vaibhav. Going on to the next question. Sorry. Yeah, the last one. Sorry, last one, okay. The big boss says it's the last one, so. Anyone has the last question? See, everyone's afraid of you, Subrat. They've stopped asking questions, man. On that note, thank you very much. And thank you to my panelists. Right, thank you very much. And thank you for your...
Thanks, Amit.
An engaging discussion indeed on the workforce dynamics. And it's pretty evident that intergenerational collaboration is the key to building a progressive workforce. With that, a sincere thanks to all the distinguished panelists and Mr. Amit Malik for moderating this session. May I now invite Ms. Lopamudra Banerjee to felicitate the panel members. Let us not shy away from applauding heartily the youngest panel of our conference.